Hi, everyone.
Morning.
So I'm here with my brother, Eric.
Everybody's on mute. And this is Veronique's brother, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, so here we are, the two of us, to make a quick introduction about the family winery. I'm very happy to be here on this beautiful day. Eric will not stay long with me because he has kids to take care at this time of the day. He's picking them up.
Veronique, your audio went down. We couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. That's good.
How about now?
Better. Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
That's fine? Okay. Very good then. So I will do the talk. And first of all, I would like to take you outside on this beautiful day in spring. So welcome here in the south of the Rhone Valley, and this is the family estate called La Bastide St Dominique. I will take you through it just now. At the very end over there, you see some of the vineyards. That means we're really in the heart of the subject, of the matter, basically. So I will be back in the office and launch the presentation. Okay, so I'll just give me a second. I'll just share the screen. Talk. Oh, share screen. Here it is. Tuck. Okay. You have my screen now?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Il voit tous. D'accord. Il y a 25 personnes.
Oui, ils voient tous la présentation. Ils sont tous là.
Ah, Julia!
Okay. I'm just scrolling down the various faces so we can see you all from time to time. Looks like everybody is very, very serious and behind the screen. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so a quick slide with the introduction on the schedule today. We'll take you through who we are, where we are located, what we do, and how we do it. Then we'll do a per wine presentation, starting with the Côte du Rhone White, Côte du Rhone Red, the Côte du Rhone Village, Kéran, and then the three Chateau Neuf du Pape, the three Reds Chateau Neuf du Pape. So to start with, a little bit about who we are, the estate. So in the late 70s, our parents, Gérard and Marie-Claude Bonnet, started the vineyards. They both come from families here locally. Our dad was born in Orange, which is 10 kilometers away from here, and my mom from Cotes. So very local families. Both in the agricultural field. Some were wine growers, some were vegetable growers, which is a very strong activity here in the region. The region is very famous for its wine, but it's also very famous for its vegetables and fruits, which are sold all over France. Our parents started from scratch, from zero. They started in the very early 80s with the first bottles. And my brother and I are second generation in the vineyard. For Eric, it's the 20th vintage back in 2019. So he joined in 1999, sorry, after studies in Burgundy. He studied winemaking over there, and then came after a few internships here and there in France to work with our parents. From my side, I didn't join the vineyard, the estate at first. I graduated in international trade and marketing, and I worked for a good 12, 13 years in the international trade show industry. I worked in Germany, in Paris, and Hong Kong, where I stayed for 7 years, and that's my former job. I returned to the winery after the death of our mother in 2014, and that's when I joined my brother and started to do a lot more with the wine. So today I'm in charge of the sales and the marketing, and obviously Eric is managing the estate and making the wines, handling all of the 45 hectares that we work with, and overall we are a team of 10 people. Where we are located. We are located in the good old Europe, in the western part, in the south of France. The Rhone Valley, over here between Lyon in the north, just above Lyon, below Lyon, and down to Avignon. You see on the right-hand side of the screen, Lyon on the top. This represents about a 2-hour drive from top to bottom. In the Rhone Valley, you have very famous appellations in the south, where we are, and in the north of the Rhone Valley. Here on this close-up, you see Avignon here, and Orange, Queyranne, the key names, and Chateau Neuf du Pape, where just alongside the Rhone River. The region is very old. It's a very old region. It's very much influenced by the Catholic Church since the 14th century, when the Pope's residence was moved to Avignon. They moved all of the Pope and all of his dwelling to the south of France. And this gives us a chance to give a name to our estate. Our estate is named La Bastide St Dominique. Bastide is a very, it's an old stone house in Provence. Actually, here on the facade of the house, where I point, you have a stone dating back to 1653, and that is when the house was used as an old chapel. And on the right side, you can see the remnants of the entrance of the chapel, which are inside the house. Where our dad and where we grew up, where our dad lives. So for information, this is the living room currently. Kirk, you've seen this stone in the house, right? When you came.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very good. So this is La Bastide, the old stone house, Saint Dominique, because it used to be a Dominican chapel, and we found all of the proofs and in the archives of the Pope's palace. What do? We produce IGP Méditerranée, we produce Côtes du Rhone Village, Queyranne, and Chateau Neuf du Pape. All of these are appellations. You may know the system, the wines in France work with the system of appellations, which originates partly in Chateau Neuf du Pape, because one of the founders of this system is from Chateau Neuf du Pape. This all dates back to the beginning of the 20th century, 1930s. We produce a total, we work with a total of 45 hectares, around 111 acres. IGP Méditerranée in white, rosé, and red. Côtes du Rhone and Côtes du Rhone village. We have a white and we have a few reds. Queyran with about 10 hectares, and Chateau Neuf du Pape. Overall, our trend, we were speaking about philosophy of our wines. We tend to we do our best to produce fine wines with elegance, fruits. We take advantage of the terroir, of the soil, which can be quite varied, but this is a famous terroir of Chateau Neuf. But it's not the only one. We also have a lot of sand and a lot of clay as well. So basically, elegance, fruit, balance. I would say balance is probably what we are striving for. And we do everything from A to Z. We belong to the Vigneron Indépendant, which is the independent winemaker association, which means that we have 100% homemade wines, artisan made, so to say. We work from 100% from soil cultivation throughout to sales, promotion, marketing and trade and sales to customers. We've tried to include a few pictures from the various steps along the year in order to show you how we do it. Like I said, overall team of 10 people who are throughout the year, both in the vineyards, in the cellar, in the winter time, obviously, plowing, the pruning, soil preparation, everything is important. On the left side, you can start to see some of the buds on the young vines, and on the right side, older vines. This is actually pictures that were taken this week, so it's very fresh. We enjoy Mediterranean climate here, which means that we have very hot summer, hot and dry summer. We have mild winters, sometimes frost. We have a very strong wind called Mistral coming from the north, which keeps the weather healthy, and it tries to push the clouds away. Just like today, we have a beautiful sky. The Mistral wind comes from the north, which means that we have a much colder sensation than it actually is when it starts blowing, and it can be very wild. Then we do a lot of work. We jumped actually from now to in terms of pictures from now to September, but in between we have major manual and mechanical soil cultivation practices. We make sure that we have a healthy microbial life in the vineyards. We foster biodiversity in the parcels. We use a lot of, we take care of the bushes and everything alongside the parcels. Obviously, we try to limit our carbon footprint thanks to the biodiversity, and we try to ensure stable, healthy crops for the sustainability of the vineyard. The vineyards here in the region can be very old. You will notice on the Secret de Pignan, particularly later, we work with vines that are 100-year-old, and this is only achieved if you have a sustainable practices and you make sure that the soils and the earth is cultivated properly and with great care. Let's move on to September, when we decide to harvest. We have Eric and the team make a big selection and a lot of tasting starting mid-August, starting with tasting the various grapes, making sure that we reach proper maturity before we harvest. Harvest is done 100% by hand, picking both whites and reds. We give as much care to the Côtes du Rhone or IGP as we do to the Chateau Neuf du Pape. grapes are picked by hand, as I said. They are in small buckets and then poured in containers. They are transported to the winery. Everything is vinified in one spot in Cotes, where we are. You can ask Kirk, he saw it. He has experienced the harvest last September. And I will quickly show you a small video of how the containers are poured into the on the sorting table. So containers arrive, they are about 300 kilos of grapes. They are maintained to the same temperature because it's quite swift between the vineyard and the cellar. We pour it on the sorting table, and as you can see on the right side of the picture, we have at least two people sorting what's not selected to be put in the tank. We have a destemming process after that for all of the reds, and for the whites for the reds and for the white, we have direct press, as you can see here, for the harvest of the whites and the roses. We also use some techniques such as pigeage, so pumping over the grapes. The video is a few years old, but it's still very much we are still very much using the same process. We have built in some sorts of stainless steel discs above our tanks in order to move the grapes from bottom to top within the tank. We aerate a little bit for the grapes, and it gives interesting exchange of air between the top and the bottom of the tank to the grape. This is a picture of the juices, the various juices of the first reds and the whites and rosés from vintage 19. This is a picture that dates back to September last year. We have very close contact with the lab in Chateau Neuf du Pape. We have regular analysis throughout the winemaking process, obviously, and we take great care in making sure that everything is sugar and so on and so forth. As far as the cellar is concerned, you will see a majority of stainless steel tanks and a little bit of oak barrels. This is one of the inspirations of Eric when he joined the vineyard. He studied in Burgundy, hence the French oak Burgundy barrels. We use the small ones rather than the larger ones. 225 liter or 600 liters for some of them. They are usually young oak barrel, and we keep them between 3 to 5 years maximum. Like I said earlier, we do everything from A to Z. So here you have a bottling station, our own bottling station. It is plugged into the tank directly, prepared. We use natural cork, and we are very flexible in terms of bottling. When we decide that we need the wines, we just can prepare everything, filter, and go on with the bottling. Everything is made in-house. Second time. It's a quick one. So this is simple process. We have a sort of a resting phase here, and then they come onto those plastic shelves, and they are stored on pallets, and the pallets are just one above the other. One block is about 540 bottles. 520 bottles. So I let you count the stock. We also have our own labeling stations, and we can prepare all orders. We're very flexible with that. We can also do our back labels and packaging, pretty reactive. Even in the time of COVID, we can prepare your orders. This is actually a picture of your order for California. And here we have the one for Texas that left about a couple of weeks ago.
On the way to you, Brian. Get ready.
It should arrive soon.
Excellent.
Yeah?
I must say, Veronique, those labels are very good.
Are they?
Yeah, they're exceptional quality.
Outstanding, Rod.
Especially the back labels, correct?
That's the ones, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what will make the difference on the bottle after all.
Yeah,
So
well,
everybody
so much
knows,
quicker now.
Rod was in the office and actually printed all of those labels himself. So everyone is chipping in,
No.
multitasking. So thank you, Rod.
My pleasure.
Okay, so well, this is where some of our wines will go then. You will see the big Bastide St Dominique logo on them. This is a quick introduction to where we are and how we sell, or where we are, how we are represented. About 45% of our sales are on the domestic markets via direct sales on public fairs or visits at the cellar. We also work with a lot of regional agents in France for restaurants and wine retail shops. 55% of our sales are also directed to export. Obviously, North and Western Europe are the key markets for us. Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark are key markets, and then APAC as well, and the Americas. Mostly North America. We do a little bit of Central America, but it's very small. This is a picture on some of the public fairs. So as you can see, we are about 8 weekends a year together with my dad. We sell on the independent winemaker trade shows. Here we have a bunch of German customers that we know for now about at least 10 years that come regularly to enjoy the wines. It's a very compact fair. We have a small counter, and we sell about 4 to 5 pallets during a weekend. So it's a very intense weekend, but it's a very good way for us to get direct feedback from the customers. So this was in Strasbourg in February. This is also international trade fair, just as Wine Paris happened in February. Unfortunately, we could not go to Provine this year in Düsseldorf, but this is where we will introduce the whole range to major importers or distributors, both domestic and internationally. So we work a lot with the Rhone Valley Association, which usually in the pavilions. We do also some direct marketing and direct press promotion. On the left side, you can see Eric giving an interview to the Japan press. And on the right-hand side, I was in Macau at Otto e Mezzo by Bombana in Macau, organizing a wine dinner with a Michelin star awarded restaurant chef, pardon me. And that was an amazing evening with about 25, 30 people commenting every wine and introducing them together with a very interesting pairing with the food. So
I recognize my friend Roderick Wong.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, good man.
So that was in Macau.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, we're pretty busy. We are a bit here and there. Here is a quick recap of the key facts you might want to remember. Family-owned estate in the south of the Rhone Valley, created in the late 70s. We are second generation. It's for the region. It's a very young vineyard, a very young estate. But I hope you will see all of the passion and the life we put into it. Like we usually say, we grew up in a world of bottles, grapes, tractors, and so on and so forth. So we really grew up with the passion that was given by our parents. That's what we try to give into the wines today, and we continue the legacy. Our dad is still very much involved, mostly in the tractor part. That is its big thing. And we want to keep the artisan winemaker title. We are crafting balanced wine, fine elegance with genuine identity. That's really something we are keen on. 45 hectares today, started from scratch. So in about 40 years, time. We practice sustainable viticulture. We are very fond of that. We want to maintain our vines in good health. We respect the nature around us. And we are very lucky to work with a team of 10 people in the admin, sales, cellar, and the vineyards. We produce a volume of about 160 to 200,000 bottles a year, depending on the years, on the weather, on a lot of things. So that's a very challenging job nowadays, working with nature. 45% is drunk in France, 55% a bit everywhere around the world. It's crafted locally, it's enjoyed and rated globally. Okay.
So Veronique, just before we go on to the wines, there's a question about your viticulture. And can you explain a little bit how you will manage global warming in the vineyards? How is that affecting you, and what do you think you will do in the future?
Too bad Eric just left. I believe to start with, we have this very hot weather. In a way, we are used to hot temperatures. We are in the Mediterranean, very much the Mediterranean climate. We have very hot and dry summer. 2019 is a pure example of very hot summers. The recent years were very challenging with the weather. 2017, we had almost 5.5 months without a drop of rain. We noticed that some of the varietal are particularly familiar with the hot temperatures, and that's where we really need to be careful, is using what's old and what's traditional, rather than creating new grape that don't know about this, that have never experienced the hot temperatures. Grenache, for example, has lived 2019 very fine. The grapes were beautiful, even though the hot weather was particularly crazy. Obviously, we need to make sure in the cellar how we maintain a percentage of alcohol at a minimum level. Otherwise, people will stop drinking wines that are just above 15, 16%. That will be a real challenge for us. But I believe that it's not only how we work in the fields. We will obviously start to irrigate some of the fields. However, we are very limited with the system of appellations in France. We cannot irrigate just with a simple when we decide. We need to get an approval. We need to get an authorization. So all of that need to be taken care of at the federation and association levels. And that's what, as winemakers, we are working towards, is getting specific authorization, trying to adapt ourselves to these new weather conditions. But obviously, it has consequences already. We've felt it. 2017, we lost about 35% of our production, of our volume already in the springtime, because the hot temperatures hit very early. They hit in the spring when the buds were just buds, and they simply dried on the spot. And 2018, we suffered a lot from very strong rain in June alongside hot temperatures. There was a combination of hot weather and a lot of rain at the same time. And this means that we we lost about 45%. So from a estate point of view, estate management point of view, we really need to be careful because we need to make sure we are still sustainable, and sustainable not just for the earth, but sustainable for the company, for our employees, for our teams.
Thank you.
So we need to make I would say we need to wait where we need to, it's not just a consideration for the earth, it's a consideration, it's a global consideration we need to have.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. We have not talked about organic because we have we were certified, and I say it in the past, we were certified in the French certification. We've never had the American certification for organic farming, yet we comply with the French organic farming certification. We have slight differences, which I'm not really a specialist of, but in any case, we've worked with this certification for 10 years. And after 2 years, just like 17 and 18, like I just described, we've decided to suspend it for the reasons I mentioned. We want to make it sustainable. We don't want to be purists and ruin the vineyards. Some of the vines, like I said, are 100-year-old. We are sure that we can maintain them in a very sustainable manner, not necessarily having a certification. For us, the certification is a good thing. It's a good thing for, obviously, for the marketing aspect, for the clients who want it, but we need to be careful with those certifications. Sometimes we are too dependent on it, and it can be very, very complicated to cope with. In 2018, I'm not saying we could have saved part of the vineyards, part of the grapes, but we are not sure about that. We cannot say something that already happened. But if we need to intervene at some point with something a little bit more efficient and that is not organic certified, we will do it for the sake of saving the grapes. And it's a matter, again, of making sure that we wait where we need to push in case of emergency. But believe me, we take care of the vineyards. Other questions?
I do have a question about the Vigneron Independent. Is that an organization for just the Rhone, or is that a French organization?
It's a national French organization. We have this logo, the Vigneron Indépendant. We also sign a chart that says, let's go back to it. That guarantees basically that the winemaker that has this logo on the bottle cultivates his or her land and the vines while respecting the soil. So there is definitely a question of respect of the nature around you. There is also knowledge of your specific terroir, your specific soil, its characteristics, the combination of your soil together with your grape, with the varietal that you are using. The vinification process is done in-house, and the sales is also done by the same person. So on the fair example, on the public fair, like the market, if you want to say the wine market that I showed you earlier, where we have a booth with the German crowd, this is typically, if you want to attend as an exhibitor to this type of fair, then you guarantee that you are that the person on the stand is also the person making the wine. So you have a real, a true, genuine interaction between the person who sells and the person who buys and ultimately will drink your wine. It's actually very interesting. It's a huge crowd in Strasbourg. You have 700 winemakers from all over France. In Paris, you have up to 1,000 winemakers. Julia, Paul, Rod probably have been to these fairs. In Bordeaux, there is a little bit everywhere in France. We do Lille, Bordeaux, Paris, Strasbourg, and we also do other wine fairs which are not within the association, but which are just very typical French weekend activities.
Yeah, Matthew, there are quite a few of the Europe Van portfolio producers which are part of the independent.
Is there a list we can get? Actually, is there a website that we can just go and look at, Rod?
Yes, there is. They have a
Veronique?
Vigneronindependant.com.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we move on to the wines?
Yes, let's do that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So we've made a selection together with the team in Bordeaux. I will introduce the wines. So you know, on the website, on the BastideSaintDominique.com website, you can read and download every single technical sheet for each wine. Okay, so in case you've missed something or something is not clear, you can always go back there. You can download them, fall asleep with them. You're completely fine with that. Let's start with the Côtes du Rhone white. I've indicated, I've made a copy of the technical sheets, and also I've given you on the right side the percentage for the US, so you know which wines can enter the criteria of this great initiative of your dear Mr. Trump recently on the wines, on the French wines and some other European wines. So fortunately enough, we are not very much concerned by it for now. Let's put it this way. And I'm not kidding, this one is actually 14.2%. It's not a joke. We're just above, and we are very happy to be just above. So let's move on. Côtes du Rhone white. The Côtes du Rhone white is actually a base of 50% Viognier, 25% Grenache white, and Clairette. We've not really spoken about, I realize, about the grape varietal that we use in the Rhone Valley. But most importantly, king is obviously Grenache in the south of the Rhone Valley, and in the north of the Rhone Valley, Syrah, what you call Shiraz. In the south, the majority is indeed Grenache. Grenache, you have white and red Grenache. So here we have Viognier 50%. Viognier is also the grape of Condrieu, this beautiful appellation of the north of the Rhone Valley, which is made of 100% Viognier. It brings a lot of exotic fruits. It's a juicy wine. It's very fresh. It's fine. It's honestly, it's the perfect evening white. Have a glass of white wine of Côtes du Rhone. It's honestly the best recommendation you can do. It's just an easygoing wine. You can characteristic of floral. It's exotic, depending on the vintage. It goes on to lychee, to apricot, fresh flowers. It's incredibly fresh. It's great alone, actually, or you can match with a lot of different dishes, different styles. Japanese food, for example, sushi, sashimi is a perfect match. In Paris, we have a couple of restaurants that serve it with Japanese food. It's simply amazing. And it's just a easygoing white. It's a great value as well for the restaurants and for the restaurants or bars out there. White by the glass, it's a perfect for it. What can I say? We just started with the 2019, bottled in January. 2019 is amazing in terms of it was a very balanced year. It's just we would love to repeat 2019. It's fine, we can do it again.
So Veronique, were the volumes back to normal in 2019 after having the difficulties of 17, 18?
They were perfect. We were looking for space in the cellar.
Right.
Honestly, it was good to feel like that after 2 years where we were desperately looking at our empty tanks.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it was a relief. 2019 was a good relief. It was honestly a beautiful year. Everything went smooth. After 2 years where it could have been very critical, although in the end the wines are beautiful. I'm not saying the wines are not beautiful, it's just the volumes were not there. But 2019 was just fine in all terms.
Great.
Côtes du Rhone Red. Côtes du Rhone Red. We are here just around the estates. We are in plain, mainly sand and a bit of red clay. The average age of wines over here are 25 to 50 years old. We have a beautiful blend of 60% Grenache and 40% Syrah. This is very much onto the fruit aspect of things. Here we are looking for easygoing reds, classic red fruits. Grenache is bringing the classic red fruit style. The Syrah is bringing more spices. It's a very interesting blend. It's the great value wine, the wine you can pair with a cheese platter, charcuterie, with pâté, terrine, whatever you have, on hand. It's a really, or just on its own. It's the equivalent of the white in red.
Veronique, I'm sorry, I missed the vintage. That's 2019 as well?
No, reds are 18.
18, thank you.
But I think you probably, in the US, probably still have 17.
Yeah.
And for now, it's the 17. The ones that just left for California are 2018.
Excellent, thank you.
And this one is 14.5, so just above. We like that too.
Perfect.
I'm not giving ratings on the 18 in reds for the very simple reason is that most of the wines in 2018, most of the red wines are not rated yet by the international Dunnock and Parker and the team and alike. Yep. So that will come later. That probably by the end of this year. They usually come and taste the wines June, but that will be postponed for this year, so probably October. Mm-hmm. So here we have, do we have questions? I see.
No, Craig's reminding us that we tasted the wine at our meeting in Dallas.
Okay, perfect.
So thank you for joining us.
Okay. Let's move on to Côtes du Rhone Village. Côtes du Rhone Village. So the categories of appellations in the Rhone Valley. In France, we work with this system of appellations. Appellations mean that we have a dedicated area, dedicated grape varietal, dedicated cultivation methods we have dedicated and very much restricted yield per hectare. We have a lot of things to consider if we want to be labeled AOP, Côte du Rhone Village, and so on and so forth. So Côte du Rhone Village is just a category above Côte du Rhone. The Côte du Rhone, the classic one, is I don't like to say the basic Côte du Rhone because it's not a basic wine, but it's the first category at the bottom of the categories. And then we move on to Côte du Rhone Village, which is already a more restricted area. And actually this area in Côte du Rhone Village is just outside of the appellation Chateau Neuf du Pape. In the north of the appellation of Chateau Neuf du Pape, in the south of Orange. We have more hillsides over there. We have big Rhone Valley rock. We will see them later on a picture of Chateau Neuf du Pape. This wine has more structure. Côte du Rhone Village brings more structure. It's a blend of 4 grapes. It's well proportioned. It's 50% Grenache, 20% Syrah, 15% Mourvèdre, and 15% Carignan. You have a larger mouth, more tannins. It's aged only in stainless steel tanks in order to keep the freshness of the blend. We really want to focus on that, of fresh, elegant, modern, contemporary wines you can enjoy when they're young. You can age them for a few years, but that's it. That's where we want to focus. And keeping them in a stainless steel tank help us to really ensure we have those fine and firm tannins, and we have those fruits, black berries, red berries, very ripe berries. Then we have Queyranne. Queyranne is the latest of the appellations. Queyranne is an appellation that it was a Côte du Rhone village until 2016, and it became appellations after 8 years of the winemakers of Queyranne were defending their position as being a specific area, a very special area. With specific characteristics, and they wanted really to reach that point of appellation, Queyranne. And that is something that they reached in 2016. We were very happy about it because Queyranne for us is our 10 hectares of wine we took over from friends who have decided to stop their domain. We took it over from them in 2013. And it became cru or appellation in 2016. It is a very interesting add-on to our range of wines. It's in between Côte du Rhone and Côte du Rhone Village and the Chateau Neuf, which is at the top of the appellations of the Rhone Valley. And it enables us to have a mid-range, so to say, with very interesting characteristics. In the US, you don't have Guy d'Achette, but we love it as French people. Guy d'Achette is the reference in France, and it's tasted by both trade people and the public. And after 3 years with 2 hearts, we got coup de cœur this year, so that's the highest ranking in the Guy d'Achette, and we were very happy to have it on the 2017 vintage. It's very interesting soils. It's red clay mainly. We are on the east of the appellation, and it's 10 hectares of vines aged from 15 to 50 years old. It's a very balanced blend of 4 grapes, 25% Grenache, 25% Syrah, 25% Mourvèdre, and Carignan. It's partly aged in stainless steel tank, and the Carignan are aged in oak barrels, French oak, from Burgundy. It is a very balanced, a very balanced cuvée, and it has a lot more characteristics than the Côte du Rhone. It's a little bit, you can imagine yourself sitting down in a field with a what do you call it, red and white tablecloth and your picnic basket, and having this with a saucisson that's purely French, and that will just simply match to the wine. It's that experience we want to share with the Queyranne. It's red clay over there, so it's a different relationship with the Grenache. Eric is always speaking about the new experience that he's having with the Grenache and red clay over there, different than what we have here with the sand in Chateau Neuf. This is about 20 kilometers away from Chateau Neuf du Pape, yet we bring everything back to the vineyard in Courtaisan, and everything is vinified here locally in Courtaisan. We have set up for this specific area our little truck called the Queyranne Express, and we bring our containers back in less than 25 minutes back to the vineyard, so that we maintain the same temperature and the grapes do not heat up, even though we have pretty high temperatures during harvest. Queyranne, you will pair it with a lot of different things. It can be it's like I said, it's with duck, it's amazing. With lamb, it's perfect. Easter is coming up for some of you. If you know, if you have a lamb chopped or something, that's really something really nice to enjoy with it. It has a lot of character. You can drink them now, or you can drink much later. You can keep them 10 years without any problem. It's one of the cuvées where we aged partly in oak and partly in stainless steel, and it's 14.5%, also above the necessary percentage. And then we move on to Chateau Neuf. So, Chateau Neuf du Pape. Chateau Neuf du Pape, I took a big map of the appellation, although it's actually a very, very tiny appellation of 3,200 hectares with very strict rules. It's about 8,000 acres. It's one of the smallest of one of the eldest appellation, and one of the smallest as well. You have the Rhone River. Where is the map? You have here, the Rhone River comes down through Chateau Neuf, actually just on the western side of the appellation. Chateau Neuf du Pape is considered as one of the king appellation, the most exciting blends of the Rhone Valley. It's more related to the Pope than to the kings, actually. Like I said earlier, when the papacy was moved to the south of France in the 14th century, Chateau Neuf du Pape actually hosted the summer residence of the Pope. You can see a little drawing here. We have some remnants of it. We only have ruins and a very interesting room in the underground, actually built in the hill of Chateau Neuf du Pape, where we still have big, I would say, parties or wine parties mostly. But this is New Castle of the Pope. Chateau Neuf du Pape means New Castle of the Pope. It was when the popes were in Avignon, it was the summer residence, and obviously it was the wine of the Pope. Initially, Chateau Neuf du Pape was mostly white wines. Gradually, it became 95% red wines, less than 5% white wines. It's very rare to see white wines. We are one of the few producers actually having some white wines. We'll not go through it today. even though it's a very, very interesting wine as well. Very elegant, very fine white Chateau Neuf du Pape. Very interesting blends. We have interesting grapes, as you can see here at the bottom of the map, mainly Clairette, Roussanne, Grenache are part of the blend. We do a blend of 3/3 Grenache, Clairette, and Roussanne for our white Chateau Neuf. But back to the appellation. The appellation has a variety of soils. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the pebbles, the very famous galets roulés, means rolled pebbles. They are rolled because they were left there thousands of years ago by the Rhone river. They actually came from the river directly, and they were rolled onto the sides of the river. In some areas, you have a very thick layer of about 40 to 50 centimeters of stones like this, or these pebbles. The key characteristics are that they keep the heat accumulated during the day, and they regenerate the heat at night. So it keeps a very interesting temperature into the soil and into the roots of the vines. When we pull out very old vines, we can find roots that are more than 3-4 meters long. It's a very long process because the roots go very, very deep. It's incredible. But this is because of this thick layer coming from the Rhone River at the time. This is not necessarily, it is the most famous soil, but it's not the main soil. Actually, you can find some of it here in the red areas. You can find some of it over here as well. But what we mostly have is a sandstone and clay and sands. This is a group, so to say. It's what we call the red. They are red sands. They are pretty dark. We will see a picture later. Darker soil. It's a perfect match with Grenache, honestly. Regarding the appellation, Chateau Neuf du Pape spread over 5 towns. You have Orange in the north here. You have the heart of the small village of Chateau Neuf du Pape. It's a very tiny village. You have Cotes, that's where exactly we are. We are located just here on this road outside. This is the part of Cotes that is within the appellation. That's also where most of our, actually all of our vines in Chateau Neuf are located. And you have a small village as well here, Bédaride, and another one here, Sorgues. So these are the 5 towns. It's spread over 5 towns, total of 3,200 hectares, which is 8,000 acres. The yield is maximum 35 hectoliter per hectare. Please find something else, somewhere else, where it's as low as that. And let me know. Actually, we are about 30 hectoliter, 32 hectoliter. We have very small yield in Chateau Neuf, and that's what makes also the wealth of this juice, the quality, the intensity of the juices of the appellation. It's known as well as the appellation with the largest variety of grapes. We can go up to 13 grapes. There is a big debate at the moment if it's 13 or 18 because some exist in various colors, but we consider 13. This is really it's today the majority is Grenache for sure. If you have the blend GSM, the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, that's usually what you mainly have in Chateau Neuf du Pape reds. Grenache is about 80% usually, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and we have a little bit of Cinsault for us. And in white, like I said, Grenache, Clairette, Roussanne. Voilà, voilà. I will introduce three wines, three cuvées. We have classic Chateau Neuf du Pape. Like I explained, GSM, Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre, these are the key grape. And then we also have a bit of Cinsault. Just like the other reds, we do 100% destemming for all of the Chateau Neuf du Pape. They are vinified in stainless steel tanks. And this one is 100% aged in stainless steel tank. We just got the 2018 rated by Dunnock, and the other ratings were for the 17. It's a bold, warm, it's a full-bodied. It's classic pairing is obviously with meat with steak, but also lamb. It's very balanced and integrated. Here we are looking for jammy fruits, almost kirsch liqueur, very dark wine. You may notice the embossed logo on the bottles. This, you have 3 embossed logos on different bottles of Chateau Neuf. This one is the one belonging to the producers. You have producers, négociants, and there is also a small independent team who has its own bottle. But generally, the majority of the Chateau Neuf are sold with this bottle, and these are the producers. The bottle of the producers, they are the key of St. Peter's in Rome and the tiara of the Pope, to explain. The terroir here is in the northeast of the appellation. Most of sands and clays. Where we are is really, that is really our typical soil. We also have some pebbles, but less than in some other area. We have famous lieux-dits called, lieux-dits is areas, called the Bédine, Chapoint, Pignan, Gigas. These are very famous for their elegance, for their sandy soils, and it enables us to have a fuller bodied wines, yet we can maintain the balance. This is really important because when you have a 15% wines, that's really something you need to take care of. These are typical full 100% galets roulés. That's what I explained earlier. The soils, what's the most famous, not the most spread, but the most famous soils of Chateau Neuf. This is the parcel where we do our cuvée Les Hespérides. It's a North Hill oriented parcel. It's very windy. I was talking about a Mistral earlier. This is typical. This is an area where you want to go when you have a very strong wind, and believe me, you will understand what that is. You can basically hold on to one of the vine in order to stand still. It's very cold, but it keeps a very good health in the vines. And that's very, very interesting in Chateau Neuf. So you see the appellation is not just about the soil, it's also a combination of the climate, the grape, and so on and so forth. So Les Hespérides, that's Hespéride vintage, the ratings are for vintage 16, which is currently, which we are selling the last bottles. It's my favorite blend. It's a blend of 50% Grenache and 50% Mourvèdre. It's a parcel that was planted by our grandfather in the 1950s. Lieux-dit Les Bédines. It's like I said, a very windy area, typical soil. 2 varietals within the same plot. This is something quite unusual today, but at the same in these old days, you could plant 2 different grape varietal in the same area. That means that they are vinified together because we don't sort one or the other. and Grenache and Mourvèdre. Grenache for its spiciness, for its fruits as well. It has beautiful fruits, but it also has a lot of influence from the 50% Mourvèdre. Mourvèdre is the grape which is the majority in Bandol wines. It brings a lot of characteristics such as camphor, licorice, menthol, thyme, such aromas. It has a big aging potential, but you can also enjoy it in more younger years. It's beautiful. It's a full-bodied wine, but most importantly, it has all of these aromas mixed together. It's a pure pleasure. You have a lot of elegance as well. The tannins are very refined, and it has a very dark color. It's one of those red wines you want to pair with very dark and intense, high-quality chocolate as well. Voilà. Voilà. And this is just, let's say, 2 minutes walk from the previous parcel, piece of land you just saw, so that you can see in Chateau Neuf du Pape, the soil can change really fast. Here we have 100% sand. It's those red sand. You can see a few pebbles here and there. This is Pignan area. Pignan, very, very, very famous from Rayas as well. We are neighbor. Single parcel, planted in 1918 and 1920, belonging to the family since then. So that is really cherished by us. And when we speak about sustainable viticulture, that's what we want to do. It's keep our vines as long as we can. And single parcel, single vineyard, oriented south. So the other one was just North Hill, and this is South Hill. It's mixed. It's actually sand mixed with red clay. It's a very special place in Chateau Neuf du Pape, and it's a 100% Grenache. Here you have the ratings for vintage 2017, which is currently available. Grenache and sand. Honestly, it's the magic. Eric believes it's his own little magic. It's his own little playground. He really loves it. That's his favorite. I'm not going to say blend because it's a 100% Grenache, but it's its favorite cuvée. Obviously, there is not so much from it because it has a very low yield. We don't even reach the 30 hectoliter per hectare. But here, the relationship between the sand and Grenache is particularly interesting. You have one of the finest Chateau Neuf du Pape. The texture is large, but it has such delicate tannins. It's a pure expression of a Grenache. For big Grenache lovers, honestly, that's big, that's balanced. It's a lot of spices. We love it around 6 to 10 years. And it's pure fruit because it's so delicate. It's 100% aged in tanks, a bit of stainless steel in the beginning and then concrete tanks. We do not want any influence from anything else but the fruit. So it's really a matter of fruit. We keep the freshness. We obtain nice evolution of aromas there. And yeah, it's bold. And it's a bomb. It's a bomb. And it's 15%. Voilà. That's it for the vines. I've made a little suggestions for this Easter weekend in case you want to have a wine route over the weekend.
Bravo.
Nice looking.
You can go into the kitchen, have a glass of white while you prepare your dinner. If you want to watch a movie, just sit down on the couch, you know, have a glass of Keran. It's a good deal on its own. And if you have lamb chops, go for Pignon.
Sounds like a great plan.
Okay? So you have a plan. We'll have that actually.
I think it would be nicer to actually have it in the courtyard out in front of, and just outside your office.
Yeah, why not?
That would be nice.
But we can't gather. So yeah, we can do a video. Visio, just like now.
Excellent.
And voila.
That's a great presentation. Thank you, Veronique. One of the striking things looking at the map and your description of the vineyards is the variety of soils that you have in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Because when you travel around the world and people talk about Châteauneuf-du-Pape, they think of these big stones, but in actual fact, the reality is there's a huge variety of soils, and that's what brings the complexity, I think.
It's actually almost a mistake to consider the pebbles as the typical soil of Châteauneuf. It's one of the soils of Châteauneuf, but
yeah.
But it's not just that.
Veronique, what is the most produced wine at the winery, and how do you, from a volume standpoint?
From a volume standpoint, it will be the Côte du Rhone Village.
Okay.
It's the yield in Côte du Rhone is 40 to 45 hectoliter per hectare, just a little bit above Châteauneuf.
There you go. Okay.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the yield in the US or in California or in Alsace or in Champagne areas, but it's very low.
Yeah.
Definitely the 35 hectoliter is one of the lowest.
But you do have a nice holding in Châteauneuf-du-Pape as well, so there's a fair production there as well.
There is, but the yield are very small. So in terms of volume, it's a Côte du Rhone.
Who had the winery before your parents took over? I guess is a
they
question.
created it. They created it. They created it from scratch. Actually, we had winemakers in the family. On my mom's side, there was a generation. My grandmother was the eldest of seven daughters. It was also Second World War at that time. And the vines of my great-grandfather were put for rent to a farmer. And for a period of time, his vines, his parcels were cultivated, and there was a whole period of time where the grapes were brought into the co-op, the local co-op. There was no winery. Actually, this house was purchased by my parents. It didn't look like that at all. Not at all. In the late 70s, they came here after they got married. Meet in English, hermit. Hermit. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So you had there was no water and no electricity in the house, to give you an idea, and he was living with the sheep. So that's where it started.
From Australia or New Zealand, perhaps.
Maybe. But so they found this old stone house. It had a couple of windows at the time, and they renovated everything over the last 30, 40 years. And we did a little bit of work together when we were children. And that's how they started it.
Have the labels evolved over time, or have they always been modern?
They've not always been so contemporary. Those are actually 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have Actually, somebody sent me a bottle of a photo of a 1999 last week. And recently I also got a 1985. So they were a lot more traditional. I think we've evolved with, I'm not sure, I will just share my, how do I go back to the camera? Now I'm sharing the screen. Stop share, no, new share, pause share.
At the bottom of the screen in the middle.
The box with the screen, where am I? Can you still see me? Yes?
Yes.
You can see my camera then. Ah, perfect. So this is the 1985. So this is 1985.
Yeah, that's much more traditional. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Chateau Neuf du Pape, 1999.
Cool.
Okay.
Very nice.
Thank you so much to you and Eric for your time. It was fantastic. Excellent. Thank you again.